I'm ready.
So Terrence, you were in Indianapolis for a bodybuilding competition?
I was a couple of weeks ago, and thankfully it was successful.
Yeah, I saw that. That's pretty friggin' amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you
So
so much. I appreciate that.
I didn't know that you were working on that.
Oh yeah, I am. I'm always working towards something, but it's just a matter of when I'm ready, and then when I am, I will go ahead and try to do the best that I can up there. So it was, like I said, it was a successful outing, which I'm happy with.
That's awesome. Yeah, you won like you took like first prize in the show in the whole show, right?
I did, thankfully.
Yeah, that's awesome. So tell I don't think Wes knows about your bodybuilding.
just that
When
you mentioned it, and you mentioned last week that that's what he was doing. So
Well, Terrence and I, when we actually met originally, he worked as a trainer, and I don't know. Do you still do that, Terrence? Do you still do personal training?
I do. I do actually. Very, very part time whenever I can find the time, but I try to keep doing that because I truly enjoy doing it.
Yeah, it's your passion.
It is.
Terrence, what was the competition in Indiana?
It was a bodybuilding show.
But I mean, is
So
there a particular like Midwest, whatever, blah blah? Is there a name for the show or a type?
say it one more time.
Is there what show was it or what competition was it? Like,
Oh, sorry. It was the oh goodness, what was the show called? It was the NPC Indiana.
okay,
I
that's
was
really cool.
telling Wes last week, I thought, because I saw you on Facebook that you had won the competition, and I was telling him that you're into a type of bodybuilding that you don't do the drugs. It's all natural. You know,
Right.
no, right? Yeah, whatever. So I think that's what Wes was asking about, right, Wes?
Yeah, I assumed it was like the Indiana Natural or whatever they call it, sort of, open or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I said, I don't use performance enhancers, but I do compete against people that do. Um,
Really?
so it's yeah, yeah,
Oh, so the
it's
show
fun,
wasn't a natural, like not all the competitors were natural.
Correct.
Okay. Wow. Well, that's even more impressive then.
I was just gonna say that's even more impressive. Wow, kudos, Terrence. That's
Well,
amazing.
thanks.
Yeah, that's awesome. So
I'm coming up right behind you, Terrence.
See, that's why I'm trying to get it out of the way now.
Hot
I'm
on
trying
your
to compete
heels.
now before you get there.
Look out, here I come.
well, when we all come back, maybe Terrence can be your trainer, Wes.
Yeah. You know, it reminds me of many years ago, I had a trainer at East Bank Club that I went to like 2 or 3 times a week, and it got pretty intensive. And I actually did some. He talked me into doing some like what they could like a triathlon that's in the gym. You know what I mean? Where you do the bike, you do, and all, and I did it for several years, and I really enjoyed it. And then it just kind of fell off for no reason because I really liked doing it. And years later, I was meeting with a therapist, and he was asking me like my background and health and all that stuff. And I told him that story, and when he asked me more about it, about training and all that, and I was saying how I really enjoyed it, but this and that, and I just, for whatever reason, it just, fizzled out. And he said, it sounds uh, like a fighter who's training for a fight that never comes. And it was kind of like an epiphany. And I was like, that's exactly what it was like. It was like I was doing all of this for something, and that thing never happened. And so like at some point you just kind of stop because and I didn't realize obviously in the moment that that's how I was seeing it. But you probably, as a trainer, you've probably seen that before. um, so I think it's great, like having those shows and having the competitions like you're doing. It's like keeps you in it, keeps you working towards something.
Yeah, it's a little bit like being a musician, and you practice, but you don't have a
Never
specific.
perform.
Yeah, you never perform. What fun is that?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So one of the things that Wes and I came across last week, it came up in our travels through the world of real estate, is this thing about something that's very common and Terrence, I wonder if you've seen this, where buyers in a multiple offer situation will write a personal letter to the seller that to be submitted with their offer,
Oh yeah.
way to induce them. Have you seen these? And what do lenders
And
see those? And
I mean, they're not necessary for us, but we do see them. I've had clients ask if it could help, and yes. I have a friend that bought a place last year, and it helped he and his family win the house. So, it just really depends. I mean, obviously, multiple offers, they have multiple things to weigh in on. So, when a lot of these offers start to look the same, it does help set them apart. It kind of depends on the situation. Sometimes if they write the letter and, here's a situation where a young family looking to spend some quality years in the home and blah, 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 to tug at someone's heartstrings, sometimes it works.
yeah. Well, it's interesting because Wes and I actually got into a little bit of a about it, and my attitude was, you know what, just show me the money, baby. But 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 Wes's point was that selling a home, and maybe Wes, you want to tell your story, but that selling a home is certainly an emotional.
Yeah, it's although it's a financial transaction, it's not only the biggest financial transaction for most anybody, but it's also a very emotional transaction, both for the seller and the buyer. And I think particularly for the seller, because they've got so much tied up in the home, history, memories, family, whatever. But Mary and I have, to come at it from a different angle, Mary and I have often had the discussion about one of the biggest mistakes that I think a lot of rookie agents make, well, a lot of agents in general, but particularly rookie agents, is the old school style of making an offer on a home being, okay, to the listing agent or to the sellers, here's my buyer's offer. They think the home needs a lot of work, and there's this one down the street that's also in the market, and they really like it, and if you don't accept this, they're just going to go down the street and buy this other house. And it doesn't matter what the offer is, inevitably the seller is going to be like, screw you, go buy the one down the street, we don't even want to talk to you. People don't want to sell a home to somebody who they don't feel likes their home. It's and is insulted, or they're insulted by it. And like I said to Mary, I think this is the inverse of that. It's sellers want to sell their home to people who love the home, to people who will use the home in a way that the seller thinks is, probably something like they used it, like to raise their family in, or, newlyweds, their first home, whatever it is, they want to feel that emotional tug. And when they do, they'll sell it at a price that they didn't think they would have sold it for, and that's why I say, there is an emotional element to this. And however, part of the reason we were having the discussion is it's become, the National Association of Realtors has been discouraging it lately, the writing of letters anyway. And Mary said that she thinks that California has actually kind of outlawed them. And the reason is that it can be discrimination in disguise. And we've particularly heard recently of some realtors here in Chicago that are actually even attaching the photos of the buyers with this letter, which, back in the day, 30, 40 years ago was kind of a thing.
Redlining.
Yeah, but the idea of submitting a letter, particularly with photos, really opens up the door for discrimination. So trying to, what Mary and I were talking about was trying to find that line between selling as a buyer's agent, selling your clients to the agent and getting that emotional hook with the sellers without crossing some line, and without, even if you're not intending that, without crossing a line that makes it, some sort of discriminatory practice possible, or likely, So,
Well, you even were telling me, Wes, about one of our colleagues.
well, that's what I mentioned. We've heard about agents here in Chicago using it. Yeah.
Yeah, use them on routinely on every offer, and it's actually NAR actually discourages it, and it brings up a couple of thoughts that I've had while you were talking. And in a multiple offer situation, I mean, it's definitely, real estate is an emotional transaction, even for investors. They get very emotional about the property as well. I mean, they've invested a lot of energy and money, and they've got a lot of hopes and dreams, just like a family living in a home. I mean, it's not that different. Maybe not to the degree, but it's certainly an emotional transaction, whether it's an investor or not. An owner occupant who's going to live there, but. But the thing about that, the conversation I often have with my buyers in a multiple offer situation is, it's not always about the price. There's a lot of details that go on, a lot of terms and down payment. And of course, one of the things that the seller wants to know is that they've got a deal that's going to close. So things like the amount of earnest money that they're putting up shows a buyer's interest and intent and ability to close. So there's a lot of things that go into it, and how quickly the deal can close, and how much they're putting down, and all those things. So I don't think that a letter. I've never had a buyer. I've never encouraged a buyer to write a letter. I wouldn't say I've never had a buyer write one. I can't remember. I don't remember there being one, but I get plenty of offers accepted in multiple offer situations. So I don't think it's necessary to. I think there's many ways to signal a buyer's interest and intent to close, and it can be done I think this is what we talked about last week too, Wes. It can be done verbally between the agents too, to express.
Right. And mostly for the reason of, like I said, I'm all for the emotional tug, and benefiting, the buyers and getting the deal done. But I don't believe I would write a letter, because I think it opens it up to, too much.
It just goes too far. It crosses.
Yeah. Yeah. It at least allows the opportunity for somebody to cross the line, even if that's obviously not the intent, of us as the buyer's agent. That open, but at least that way you're getting the point across that you're trying to make, the emotional pull, without it, bringing in any sort of, discriminatory practice or allowing that. And then it can also be filtered through the other agent too, but that's, so I've never written the letter, but I understand it, and I understand the idea of, the emotional, hook. So anyway, yeah.
Terrence, thoughts?
Well, this is definitely obviously you guys' area, not mine. I don't know what's legal in that. I don't see anything wrong with it, but obviously I think the photos, that's probably crossing a line. But I personally don't see anything wrong with writing a letter. It really, I think it just comes down to the seller. I can see, arguments on both sides. If you have someone that's been in the home for 20, 30, 40 years, they're a little bit more emotionally attached. If I sold mine next week and someone said they want to tear it down, I don't care. I'm taking the highest and best, personally. But, I've been here for money. I've been here for, 6 years. I'm not I'm not emotionally attached. I don't have, little tiny humans running around here saying, "Oh, look at that scratch on the wall. That's from little Joey when he bumped his head when he was 5." Like, I don't care. Tear the house down. But that's me. Now, again, I've been here for 20 years and, as a kid, and now they're off to college, and, the scrape on the wall, it makes me cry every time I look at it. Sure. I'm going to probably want to sell it to a family, but it's still, I'm looking at that price, but that's me.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
Well,
I'm with you, Terrence. At the end of the day, look the money, baby.
but
I'm
one thing
selling the
wanna
house.
point
I don't
out,
want it
too,
anymore. That's the point.
Right. But
the one-
that said, I have to say that when we closed on our first home, that we had purchased, and being in the industry, it's kind of an occupational hazard, I think, too. We tend to look at it a little bit more like bricks and mortar and less like, this is because we do this on a daily basis. And I know that Bob and I, we're kind of gypsies. We've moved so much the last 10 or 15 years now that we're empty nesters and have moved so much. But so yeah, it tends to be more of a bricks and mortar kind of transaction for me. But
well, like you mentioned before, though, Mary, I mean, one of the biggest responsibilities we have as the listing agent is to help figure out whether or not this offer or which offer is most likely to get to the closing table.
Right.
And that pulls in that emotional tug too. So even if my seller wasn't, emotionally attached to the home, if I had two offers in front of me and one just came in kind of sight unseen, how that happens, is like, you don't even necessarily know who it is or if they, or anything about them. And another one comes in and you hear from the agent about how the buyer fell in love with the house and how they, went through all of these things to make it happen, and they're jumping through hoops, and they called their parents and they got some extra money and they're doing all of these things. To me, that's the one that's more likely going to get to the closing table.
Right.
So whether or not the emotional attachment from the seller is there, the emotional attachment from the buyer can make a difference in that situation as well. So I think that, even if it wasn't, like I said, even if it wasn't, the seller wasn't coming into play in this emotional, hook that we're talking about, I think it still comes into play, just because the most important thing, and especially in a market like this and where there are a lot of multiple offers, because the more multiple offers there are, the more likely it is to fall through. And that's just the way that happens, because people jump, they get excited, they jump, and then they back off, and then you're back to square one. And that happens 2, 3, 4 times more sometimes on listings. So the idea that just getting a sense of who is the buyer that's really committed to this deal and is going to get to the closing table is important and is worth money. So I'm more likely to recommend to my seller to take an offer that I believe is going to get to the closing table, even if it's a little bit less money than another one that it's like, I can't tell you if this one is going to stick or not.
Right. Well, exactly right, actually. And I mean, I've got a situation actually with one of my investment properties, talking about emotional, but we had multiple offers come in. One was actually for a little more money, but the buyer didn't present a proof of funds. And the attorney, they actually came in after we had accepted another contract. It was for more money, but the attorney's like, I'm not going to kill this deal if we don't have a proof of funds and know that it's going to close. We need to know that this deal is going to close. And so, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I was just thinking about, I think the story you were talking about was my listing many years ago. And this example of people who weren't attached to the home because of their quote unquote children, at least not human children, but it was 2 litigation attorneys had this big house in Lakeview that I sold. And the very first thing they told me when I met with them is, we do this stuff all day. We're not emotionally attached. This is a transaction to us, which was a flag to me that it was going to be very emotional. And it was. They had the largest built-in saltwater tank in Chicago that was built into the lower level of the home that was like their big TV rec
Oh.
room. And she had coral that she had raised since they were babies, and they were moving overseas and she couldn't take the coral with her, and was very attached to who was getting this home and who was going to take care of the coral. And it's a big commitment, and it's a big financial commitment. And they have a service that comes in twice a week to care for them. And I mean, there were fish too, but it was really the coral that she had raised since they were quote unquote babies. And I mean, there were so many phone calls with tears and just, sobbing. And I mean, deals that we didn't take because they weren't the right people for the coral and stuff. So yeah, I mean, the emotional attachment can come in many different forms.
That is hysterical.
Wow.
to get,
Wes, how
to get
big was the tank?
emotionally attached to a fish. Well, I mean, I kept fish most of my life. I've had a fish tank, and I've never had a saltwater tank. And you're right, saltwater tank is expensive. I always figured for retirement, but now I don't want so much work.
Yeah. Terrence, I don't remember the gallon size, but it was.
Oh, it had to be huge. It had to be.
Yeah, it took up
probably
most of
a couple hundred
one
gallons.
whole wall in the lower level of the TV room. So I'd say probably about a 15 to 18 foot wall that it was.
Oh, it
built
had to be
into.
several hundred gallons because
Yeah.
to keep coral, you can't.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was big, but and beautiful, and it was not expected when you go downstairs into the lower level of a house in Lakeview, but so very
And
interesting.
expensive.
Yeah, Old Town. I remember it was Old Town Aquarium that took care of it, and I think they came in twice a week. They had their own set of keys. They come in and they do whatever with the fish and the coral and the water and everything, and then the owners did a lot too. But I mean, it was kind of like a full-time job. It was it was kind of crazy. And of course most people wouldn't want to have that at all. I mean, yeah, that's pretty, but no, I'm not dealing with that or spending thousands of dollars a year to but
Right.
yeah, we found somebody. At least
Wow.
we
Wow.
believe we did. I have no idea what happened after it closed.
Well, at least they told a good story anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Which is what we're talking about.
Which is what we're talking about. So anyway, next Monday is 4th of July. I have my 4th of July starfish on today. I'm starting to celebrate early. So I mean, actually,
There you
the
go.
4th of July is actually on Sunday. So the federal holiday is next Monday. Are you guys? So I don't think we're going to be here next Monday, right? We're taking the Monday off.
Yeah, I'm going to be at a birthday on the south side anyway. So
Nice.
for Stump's aunt.
Terrence, are you in town, or what are you up to? Are you celebrating the 4th?
Mary, I'm always working. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's Monday. All right. The 4th is Sunday. To me, Monday is Monday. I mean, there's not, I use observed holidays as catch-up days.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well,
And,
anyway, so
I'll celebrate on the day, but besides that.
Well, in Chicago, we always used to celebrate it on the 3rd anyway. You'd go down to see the fireworks.
Yeah, that's when they stopped doing that. What, 5-6 years ago? Whenever they did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when
I missed it. I like the fireworks on the 3rd.
I know,
because then you can do the fireworks. You can do the city, and then you can go to the suburbs on the 4th. I used to get 2 days of fireworks. It was a great time.
Exactly.
I agree.
Actually,
I like that. I liked having the city thing and then doing friends or neighbors or neighborhoods or doing things the next day. I agree.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you know what? They took that fun away.
Yeah, they sure did. Yeah. No, well, they couldn't afford it anymore.
Rude.
The city didn't have money in the budget for it or something. That was the story.
Is that what it was?
Well, do you remember it was also when they were having trouble of the gangs of young kids that were going down to like the what was it, the Taste of Chicago or whatever, and they were having those attacks and stuff.
Oh, right.
And then they just said it had gotten too big, and they couldn't control it and couldn't patrol it. So that's why they cut back, and then they like made Taste of Chicago really small and didn't do the fireworks on the 3rd. I think it was a combination of all that stuff. But
Is there going to be a
Okay.
taste? Is there going to be a taste this year? Is there a Taste of Chicago this year? I hadn't
no idea.
seen
I don't
anything.
know.
I know that there's
Yeah.
Lollapalooza. My niece is coming in with her kids to chaperone her kids going to Lollapalooza, but
Oh, well, yeah, I don't know if there's a taste. Yeah, I remember they scaled it down, which was disappointing, and they took away the turkey leg booth. That was always my favorite booth.
That was everybody's favorite.
I don't know if they're back or not, but
yeah, I haven't heard anything. They must not. I know I saw a thing in the paper last week that there's not going to be an air and water show. They just have the Blue Angels are going to do a flyover, but there's no actual air and water show.
It's an air show. It's not an air and water.
Yeah, it's just the Blue Angels are going to
Yeah.
do a flyover. I don't even think it's actually a show, Terrence. I think it's just the Blue Angels are going to do a flyover. That's all they're doing.
Oh, see, I thought they were going to do a show. Well, that's just
Yeah, because
This
they
is
don't
terrible.
have they're not having the skydivers or any of that. No skydivers, none of that stuff.
Hmm.
So.
well, this is just upsetting.
Boo-hoo, I probably shouldn't have mentioned it. I wanted to leave on a positive note.
You just ruined my entire summer. Thank you both. I appreciate it.
No,
But you know what?
taste.
Now we have
No.
the auto show is in the summer now, and they moved that outdoor. I actually like that idea.
Did they really? They're having the auto show?
Yeah,
I
they
didn't know
moved.
that.
It's in the summer. It's going to be in the parking lot of the McCormick Place, and then there's going to be like a street fest as well. So I kind of like that.
Cool. Well,
But-
and Pride Parade that was supposed to be yesterday will actually be in October, right? So that'll be.
I never heard the date.
I thought
last
it was
night, but
always in
they had
October.
Scheduled it. Yeah.
No, it was always the last Sunday in June. It
Yeah.
should have been
Isn't
yesterday.
there something later in the year too? There's market days. That's
Market
later
days
in the year.
August. I don't know if they're doing that either. I haven't heard.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
anyway,
we'll see.
all that being what it is, everybody have a happy and safe 4th, and
Thank you guys too.
Thank you.
and we won't see you next Monday, but we'll be back at the same bat time and same bat channel.
All right.
There you go.
Happy
All right,
holiday.
everybody, happy holidays, and we'll be around if you need anything. You know how to get a hold of us. So,
Definitely.
Especially
Thanks so much, guys.
okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
That's right. I ain't going nowhere.